was a very good movie. I mean, this is a second war movie we touch on this podcast. We've touched on 1917. Hello? Hello? How you doing, man? How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, man.
I
Familiar
don't see you
faces.
much nowadays, only through webcam.
This is the only opportunity we get to talk to each other.
We'll do a in-person live one of these days.
Yeah, let me know. I'll be ready for that.
This episode we're touching on All Quiet on the Western Front. This is a remake of the 1930 film, and they did it again in 1979, I believe. It's a very recent film, came out
Wait,
last year.
wasn't it a novel in 1930?
I believe it's from a novel.
Novel 1930, the movie 1979, and then this is a remake.
Yeah, there's been 3 adaptations of this film.
Oh,
This
really?
is the third one.
Okay.
So this was done in 1930, original. There was a remake done, but it's like it just says it's lesser known version, which is in 79, and then there was this one. This is an all German film, so I hope you brushed up on your German while you were watching this film.
Yeah, honestly, I prefer to watch movies in the original language and read the subtitles
Yeah.
because I want to capture the emotion of the language.
Any
Um,
sane person would say what you're saying. If
It's-
someone says otherwise, you just walk away from them slowly.
it's the intensity of that language that you really, because that's what's the intended, right? And
I was just talking to a buddy like a while back, and he was watching Squid Games in English, and I'm just like,
why
no,
would you? No, it's just
no.
you gotta. It's fine not knowing the language. Just not. There's other
Yeah.
languages in the world. Respect them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
But yeah,
it's
so
not about what. So I was gonna say it's not about what you say. It's how you say it. You know what I mean? Like you're an actor. You know this. Your lines are given to you. You make it your own. I want to see that from an actor. You know, I want to see how they probably got a line and how they made it their own in that situation. Right?
yeah, 100%. I agree with all of that. This, what was I gonna say? So this was nominated for 9 awards in for the Oscars, so it's got a lot of hype going on this film. Best international feature film, best in makeup and hairstyle, in music for sound, visual effects, picture of the year, screenplay, cinematography, and production design. So
Music. I don't know. Did you? Music was a little. I felt like the music was a little too like I don't know. Like what's the word? Like it's more. It was in your face, but I don't think it required it to be that. It had like this kind of like this um, rock metallic touch to it.
I really like the drum, like the drum roll.
In that
I
moment,
think that was cool.
I feel like it was in your face, but maybe it was purposely done because like there were scenes in the movie in the beginning where it was. I think one of the things that I want to get back onto the cinematography of it, of how the music told you a different story and the picture told you a different story. You know how like usually the music and the picture are in sync of the emotion going on?
Yeah.
So
It's interesting. I didn't feel like it was different. What differences did you see?
well, I'm only noticing now because you mentioned that it's been nominated for music, and I'm thinking to myself, um, like for instance, when in the beginning, there's a scene where the kids are excited, but the music isn't of excitement; it's of a darker tone.
I guess that would be foreshadowing, right? Kind of
But
like
but it kept it consistent, like that emotion, regardless of whatever emotion you're seeing, though, or whatever you're seeing, it kept it in that tone, that harsh. It just kept it remained harsh.
Yeah.
Um, maybe something I'm noticing now though, only because you mentioned it's been nominated for best music though. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, what were your thoughts of the movie?
I think this is the second movie we touched on, where the first one was 1917 on this podcast. I don't think this was a better movie than 1917, but I really enjoyed it. It was a great film with, all those nominations I think are deserved. Just the opening shot really like right off the bat blew me away. It kind of the cinematography of it. It starts so just a little context. I've been watching a lot of directing videos and techniques of camera angles and shots and different stuff like that. So the first shot of this film is a crane shot from overhead, and then it turns into a tilt shot, so it tilts up after, so it goes like this, and then it's like a push in on like the scene ahead, and it's fucking great. Like if you're into those in like cinematography, you'll notice those little details where it's like a crane shot like that, it gives you some information here, turns into a tilt, and then a push in into like a fucking, it was so smooth.
You know,
And not just that
funny,
one, but throughout the film, it was just like so smooth, so well shot, very
funny
good
enough,
directing.
so then in the 1917 episode, you noticed something about the camera too that I did not really pay attention to.
Hmm.
Like, I didn't really notice, I didn't really appreciate the technique of it. For me, it was just like a viewer watching it, but it's good to know. But I want to touch on something you just said. You said that 1917 was better than this.
I mean, I'm saying for me personally, I liked 1917 more, and a lot of why I liked it more has to do of the process it was shot in long continuous takes.
Oh,
I think I just appreciate that more, and I like that more. Um, yeah, in terms of in the style, but I like this one too. I would give this a high score as well.
so one thing that is interesting that the 1917 was from the perspective of the British, and this one was the perspective of the Germans,
The German.
and Germans had lost this war. And I think that based on the context of what had happened in history, there was a different tone to it.
Mm.
From a so I guess like from what I'm trying to say is that in 1917, uh, like I felt like they wouldn't really need to go into detail because they had won that war, right? Even though they cannot make it as a like an achievement because it was no one really won in that war. Everyone just suffered. But the Germans really wanted to show like we suffered like because to
It's
really
not
give you
mentioned
this.
enough. You don't really see it enough, right? Like from a
Yeah,
German's point of view.
yeah, because it's the history is written by the victors and the winners of the war. So it's just that it's good for them to kind of like show that. And so look, I know you haven't seen the 1979 movie, and I remember it because I had seen it back
What
in the day,
about the 1930 one as well?
the 1979 one.
Okay, I never watched it. No.
You never watched it. I was to say this that if you've never seen it, although there are different shots and angles, it captures the essence of the movie. Everything they want to, like the messages they want to walk away from that old movie, the 1979, it's all captured here. It's just told differently. So, of course, I would recommend to you, Michael, to watch it too. But I don't think you've missed out on not on much if you haven't seen it.
Hmm.
Like there's scenes in there that are different, but it just
But the
captures
story is
everything.
the same. The story is the same, right?
Well, the novel's thing, but I think every director wants you to walk away with something. It does the same thing with the in the 1979 movie and this movie as well.
Yeah. Well, let's touch upon of uh yeah, this film is pretty, I would say it's very heartbreaking. Like
Bro, I could not sleep that night. I felt so like,
yeah, it
please.
really hits you pretty hard. It starts off with these kids who are volunteering. And I think that's a crucial word here. The volunteer, or one of them volunteered, sorry. Paul character volunteered. 3 of them were chosen, right?
I think you were
Or friend.
enlisted. Where he just signed up for it. I think you had to get permission, something like that. And then
Right.
he's, but
So he didn't get the permission. So he volunteered in a way, right? He didn't get his parents' permission. So in a way, he volunteered. And I was just thinking, like, these are young kids.
17, 18, like.
And I was just thinking, do you think that they would have some knowledge of, like, because in the beginning it's just like they're excited, right, to go to the war. But do you think they would have any knowledge of, like, the war being actually really bad? Because the only thing that they were talking about is like, yeah, champagne in Paris or something, you know?
So funny you say that. I wanted to bring up some of the World War One lesser known or known facts, I'd say, but just some things that we forget. Um, so let me just take back just the things we know about World War One, though. Some things that they did was, I'm sure the movie, and as you know, the movie captures as well too, that young guys excited to go to Paris and we're going to march into Paris, right? They're being fed false lies, though. So I think it captures very well that the towns and the villages and the farms these people were coming from, they weren't being told the harsh reality of what's the battlefield like. So the town was all intact because you see the first scene battle, but the town is all intact, everything's normal. To them, it's like, hey, everything's gravy, we're doing good, and you see like they're being talked into, I think, from their school that like you're going to be doing something great, you're going to be remembered for something great, and these kids don't know better, and like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you can be somebody, right? So touching up on World War One facts, what they did is when they were conscripting people, like taking people to fight for a war, they were picking them up from the same town and villages because they felt like they'll have a camaraderie. Like I would be like, for instance, if you and I were in the same town, I would fight more knowing that you're harder because you're my side. I would do more to protect you than and you would do the same. So they did that. The other thing was that the obviously the drawback from that is seeing your best friend that you grew up with die hits you way harder than seeing someone that you just met 2 days ago. But still, death is death, so it's awful. The other thing that was that you're dealing with weapons and concepts that you've never dealt with before. Tanks were first introduced. Chlorine gas was introduced. That's, and even like flamethrowers or like these are things that people were not even aware of, and you're dying from it because you don't know what the hell's going on. And I think that movie really shows these things in there, that how hard it hits you. And the other thing was, of course, the idea that imagine that you do survive and the people that you grew up with died. You go back. What are you going to go back to? Everything that you knew is just gone. And
you never fully recover from that. It's always going to be lingering with you.
Yeah. And I think going back to it, you said that the young guys and they're really excited and everything, that you were asking, like, do they know or anything, or
What are you saying?
the initial question that you asked, these young guys, they're excited to go.
Yeah, would there be any chance that they were like in the back of their head, maybe like saying, wait a second, maybe it's pretty bad and dangerous? Because there wasn't any hint of that. So I'm guessing they were completely oblivious to.
I felt like they were fed lies.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah, and they were manipulated and stuff.
And then you see that the people on the top are just they're so far away from reality. And there's a couple of scenes in there where what they're eating and how they're feeding themselves and how they're living, right? It's just that all they care about is their own status and honor and everything, but they don't really.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a big shock when you're expecting something and it's completely far from what you expected, right? Something so far, you're expecting celebration and happiness and champagne, and you're just thrown into the mud in the trenches of just people dying. Like it's a reality where you can't just walk away after. You're stuck and you can't, there's no way out. And then the story does show that when that shows their faces, you see, what have I gotten into? And you see that despair of kind of helplessness, and you start to feel even more bad for these kids.
And then you realize that when they're just thrown into war, the expectation is that learn on the job. So like you're just hoping that someone who's survived long enough in the war to teach you the ropes. Other than that, you're just target. Like any little mistake was a death sentence. We
Yeah.
saw the scene with the young recruits with the chlorine gas because they took it off too early. No one was there to tell them that he almost got shot in the head because, you know. Oh, yes, one more thing too. You see a lot of rats. The rats had become so accustomed to eating the dead bodies that they didn't mind attacking humans. Like they stayed in that proximity, and they got bigger too because they were just so used to feeding on the dead. They're like, "Yo, this is food right there."
Mm,
Um,
that's pretty cool. Look, well, a little fun fact for you. This guy who played the main character, that was his film debut. So that was his first film he did.
really well done, man. Yo, you know what scene was so? Um, I wanted to talk about this one scene that really got me hard.
Wait,
And it,
before you just keep that eye on that scene. I just want to say that too, that there is so much that we, watching films as viewers, we watch a film for the first time. There is so much that we miss out on, so much we catch and miss out on. I think to truly appreciate something or a film, you need to watch it 2 times, maybe three if it's a Christopher Nolan movie. But I think that because we've only seen this once, right? There naturally that there are going to be some stuff that we do miss out on, but it's always fun going back and watching and capturing something different or a new perspective, a new thought, and a new character's feeling. But yeah, I just wanted to say that before you go into this scene.
well, there's a lot of great scenes in there because I think that one thing that we talked about was where you had talked about camera directory and scenes and the shots, right? I like that they kept it all in the war zone while, but also kind of be able to show the change in character and the emotion, like to see like. But I think one thing that really, so I know I can go on about this movie because I really truly loved it and it was really like, it really impacted me hard because it was just so when you start because they really kind of hone down into the character and it really through his life you kind of experience everything that's so horrible about this war that happened. It's just that the one scene that was like these kids were forced to become men right then and there. You're gonna kill machines,
Yeah,
kill regardless, right? And but that scene where one of his when they're like they first see tanks and they get separated, that's the only time his inner child comes out. He's like, I want to see, I want to see my comrade. I don't know where my comrade is. He kind of cries to the thing, and the guy's like, hey, I miss my mother too. Just let's go. We have no time to get out of here. It was such a it was such a heartbreaking scene because he had to suck up so much for so long, and that was that only time his inner child came out because you forget these are all still children.
and it ties into what we were just saying that these guys have no way out once they're in, so they can't really. It's that sense of helplessness, and when you see
Yes.
someone that is in a rough situation and they're in a sense of helplessness, natural instinct is wanting to care about them and want to help them. Now with war movies, it's hard to, I've seen a lot of war movies, and it's hard to kind of get out of the cliche. We saw some scenes where the guy helps opposing soldier, which is very common in war scenes. Like you kill a guy and then you notice that, oh look, he had a wife and a kid, so you're just killing a husband and father, right? And that's when you realize like this is just also pointless. Why are we doing this? And that sense of humanity. A lot of war movies do that, and it's fairly common. Um, Now but it was they still really did a good job with not making it too kind of okay, yeah, we get it. They didn't like make it too cliche.
So one thing they did really well was that every time there was a human to human death, like whenever he killed somebody or somebody got killed, though, they'd show you the face of the person who's killing and the person who's being killed. There'll be shot of that and shot of that. See the expression on both their faces? It's like it's almost like the person who's killing does not know why he's killing, and the person who's being killed does not know why he's getting killed.
Well,
And like,
that's exactly what it is, right? You know,
it's
in
just,
war, you don't really know what to do. You're just following orders. So
and
that's, you know, that is exactly what they were feeling. And
and
what,
then they show you the faces of like are you gonna kill me? And he's like, do I have to kill? Like, am I gonna kill this guy? Like, it was just so heartbreaking to see because there's moments where you see that, oh my god, he's like a young guy like me, like,
Hmm.
um,
I want to
but
touch on Kat's character, because Kat's character is an interesting character. You have a character who is quite opposite of the four boys, right? He's been in the rough mud for a while now.
a lot more experience, a lot more
A lot more
knowledgeable.
experience, a lot more tough, which is a good contradiction to, you know, Paul's character, which is very
Young,
new,
naive, right?
naive, young, and and towards the, you know, the progression of the film, as his friends keep dying, you know, the only person that he's got left is Kat, and it becomes even more important to have him as a friend, right? So it just, you know, I was watching the film and I was just like, why is he going to take a piss in the woods so far away from Paul's character? He had to go take a leak, and then he goes like into the woods. I didn't know why he would have to go. These two were shitting next to each other.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they're
interesting.
comfortable enough. They were comfortable enough for me to see him going kind of into the woods to take a leak. I don't get it why.
I'll raise the argument because that particular tree was showed in the beginning too, where there was like they showed like the person's torso hanging there. So it may be that I'm gonna give the benefit of doubt though. They were doing things they were so used to doing one last time before they went home. So that they went to the same farmhouse,
Okay.
then they went to the same spot,
Hmm.
just saying their final goodbyes. Even that's why there's like, yo, when they got the eggs, they're like, hey, you gonna go home and cook it? It's like, no, no, let's do it right now. He just wants to move out of it. He just wants to get out of this,
Yeah.
do his last things, and then get out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, it was that was the only one I'm like, no, dude, don't go so far in because you know what's gonna happen. We know what's gonna happen, right? When you start going in, we know like, okay, something's gonna happen either to Paul or because once they separate, you know, that's shit hits a fan.
But yeah, man, it's just that, and then like you see, it just even though the last scene is so perfectly like the last moment before the all before it's all quiet at the Western Front.
We
As the
can
main,
spoil, by the way, too,
I
because
mean, there's not
I'll add something in the description where it says, you know, we're spoiling.
there's not much to spoil, to be honest, though, because we really want you to watch this movie and this just that you know you know what happened in the war. You know, if it's a German point of view, you know what's going to happen. They threw in some really good lines as foreshadowing too. They said, I remember when they were doing the peace agreement, and it's like, yo, these terms are basically will be insulting. Like it won't sit well. Funny enough, it didn't sit well, and a guy like freaking Hitler came into the ranks in for World War II because he was these policies. Anyways, it was a really good little touch they added there, that little dot line. With that being said, though, you see that Paul, when he, after Cats, when he's the only one, no will to live, despite being young himself, you see an other younger recruit that he takes under his helmet. Cats took him, and but it's just funny because that within that time he was there, he'd already become like a full grown person, like you know, and
By
these
the end of the film, you've seen how much he's transitioned.
yeah
Before going into that final battle, where you know there's like 15 minutes of war before the peacetime happens.
yeah
It's just a close up on his face, and you compare the shots to him in the beginning and him there. He's like a totally new person. He's been through so much, and he's just like, this is it. This is what I got to do. I'm gonna focus and just do my job,
he had
and
lost
that's all I can do.
he just lost that will to live. Like, what am I gonna go back to?
Yeah.
Because he kept like saying that like, yo, these things are gonna stay with us forever.
That's a
Like,
line in the movie. Yeah,
yeah,
they'll say that, this will be over, but this will stick with us forever.
yeah,
And that scene in the beginning when they're getting their uniforms, and the guy is like, "Hey, this is not
yeah,
my uniform. This might be someone else's." And then they're reusing the uniforms. That was wild.
yeah. That was like the fact that they didn't even like, and then they were just looking at the numbers of how many people died the week, and I'm like, bro, like, just these are like, they even threw a line like, hey, there will be no one left in Germany by this if this keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty heartbreaking stuff, man. It's just yeah.
What would you give this film out of 10?
8.5 to a 9. Maybe 8.5. 8.75?
8.5?
Let's go 8.75.
8.7? Okay, so 8.7. I would give it an 8. Solid 8. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know, as for best picture, I haven't seen all of the best picture films.
Yeah,
So I can't say, but I would be okay with this winning. I wouldn't be upset.
I don't think I'll win though.
No? What are
I
you
feel
leaning towards now? I mean, you haven't watched all of them, but
I haven't watched all of them though. Maybe I want to see all of them first.
yeah.
I want to see all of them first, though, but I don't see this winning though. But if it does win, and I'm like, you know what, it'll definitely go down as a memorable movie though, because of how well it captures. It's amazing how if you had to get a history lesson on the war and just key takeaways, it covers everything so well. They introduced every single thing, the new technology, how were the recruits made,
Mm.
what was the war like, and what was the result. Everything was captured. It was like so I think they did it really well by including it in there, and even the idea of like the shock of new weaponry that you've not used to seeing though. You know what I mean? At least in World War II, which had more deaths, but people had been accustomed to automobiles and everything, right? But this is the first time they'd seen things and just like, bro, we don't even know we're dying and we don't even know how we're dying.
Yeah. I mean, there were scenes where they're shooting with their rifles at tanks,
Yeah,
and it's just like you're crazy. It's like, why are they doing that? But at the time, they literally had no clue what to do, and
yeah,
literally no solution. This is happening at lightning pace, where
yeah,
they're thrown into the war, and then they're just coming together. Like you said, they really don't know what to do, what kind of weapons to use or how to use them. This was very much fresh.
like there, it's just like it was such this war was such a big shock to what they've imagined because before that there was no concept of trenches and like
Yeah.
like bullets flying and you got to protect your head the whole time, like you can't give up your spot, like it was just so much more. And mind you, these people were coming from like small towns and farms and villages,
Hmm.
so
But specifically speaking about the ending now, just to wrap it up, I had kind of forgotten about the 15 minutes ago thing. And I mean, not forget, but like it wasn't on my mind, right? Uh, it wasn't like really on my mind when I was watching, and then you see him get like knifed, and then it's just like, all right, time's up, peace time now, and it's just like 1 minute. Imagine dying 1 minute before they called it like a truce. It's just like,
i
fuck.
think i think that because they show you him dead, he looked a lot more in peace because he just I think you already know that he doesn't really have much to live for. He doesn't want to. There's not much for him to do. What's like? What are you gonna do after this? Like he's
Yeah, but still, like, it hits hard because you've been following this guy for the whole film, and then in the last minute, they really left it last minute. They kill him, and it just, I love that scene where the guy just comes in from behind and just pops him. You're not really expecting it, but it was a
I
nice.
I'd seen the 1979, so I knew it was gonna happen. And
Was that the same ending?
it's a recent novel, same ending.
Yeah. Okay, I guess it would be. They might have changed like some variations.
There's some things in there that changed though. For instance, like I don't know if you're gonna. Well, the thing is, like I said, I'll spoil the other one though. In the 1979 one, he goes back, and they same essence. The ones at the top, the ones back home don't know what's going on. Like he goes back, and his teacher's telling him like, oh, you could try this and you could do that, and like maybe you got to think of the whole like bigger picture. But he's like, bro, the war is really really different. He can't even talk to anybody. Like he doesn't know how to relate to anybody anymore. And so he volunteers himself again to go back to the war because he just it's nothing for him to live for. And then when he dies, it's a very good show that his youthfulness, because you know in this movie too they show you that you forget he's a child until a moment happens.
Yeah.
In the beginning they show us in class he likes to draw, but in this one his inner child kind of comes out because he sees a bird and he wants to draw it, and then his position gets stolen and he gets killed.
And I wonder why as well they didn't speak too much about its parents. I thought they would have touched upon a little bit more and kind of made it had some introduction and some story of the parents.
Well, I guess we learn through dialogues, and I think I appreciate movies where they're kind of like respecting the intelligence of the audience. Of like, we learn enough about the parents as what we needed to. Parents didn't approve of it. Parents didn't think you could do it, and yeah, I think that's all we need to know.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, with like Saving Private Ryan, there's more of like that stuff happening where they find out and kind of reaction to their kids killed and stuff. I guess you don't really need it. It's a choice.
It's a choice. Yeah, maybe they felt like it was how you mentioned about some scenes of killing the enemy and seeing the. Maybe they felt that was too redundant.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, that scene was pretty sad too, where he's seeing someone he's killed and he's slowly dying in front of him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sad moments like that in the movie though, but yeah.
It was a great movie overall. I definitely recommend anyone watching it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll probably do another episode this week, and
pick that movie. You gotta pick is it Elvis?
Yeah,
or?
we'll continue the Oscar theme, and we'll figure something out. But yeah, no, thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Take care, guys. Peace.